Hey guys, Eli here. A few weeks back I made a video comparing the three newest drones from DJI, the DJI Mini 2, the Mavic Air 2, and the Mavic 2 Pro. And the video did pretty well for my new and small channel and got over 40,000 views. Well, fast forward to a few weeks ago and a rep from Autel emailed me asking if they could send us an Autel Evo II Pro for free for us to test, and so of course we said yes. And that's how we get to today's video, which is comparing the Autel Evo II Pro to DJI's Mavic 2 Pro. This is going to be a review tailored towards real estate photographers and videographers, since that is what my company does and that is what I teach to my course students. To give you some background on the company, Autel Robotics, which was founded in 2014, is owned by the Chinese company Autel Intelligent Technology, but it's technically an American company that is based in Washington State, and it assembles the drones here in the US. John Kutch, Autel's public safety / North American enterprise sales manager, says that, quote, "Made in America is vital to Autel Enterprise Robotics as we strive to deliver an airframe that can be confidently utilized by our public safety and federal agencies. We want these agencies to know when they are flying, their information and data are secure." And end quote. Now to the drones specifically, and let's start with a heads up view of the specs of each drone. But before I do that, one important thing to note is that Autel does not yet make any drones that are in the more entry level class, like the Mavic Air 2 or DJI Mini. So if you go with Autel, be prepared to spend Mavic 2 Pro money. And the last thing I want to mention is that the Autel Evo II Pro is a newer drone than the Mavic 2 Pro by about a year. It came out about a year later than the Mavic 2 Pro, so I think it's fair to say that the Mavic 2 Pro is probably due for an update sooner than the Evo II Pro. As far as the specs of the drones, both have a 1-inch CMOS sensor, 3-axis gimbals, and an adjustable aperture. The Evo II Pro shoots 6K video and HDR, and the Mavic 2 Pro shoots 4K Ultra HD as well as HDR video. Flight time wise, the Evo II Pro claims 40 minutes, while the Mavic 2 Pro only claims 31. Price wise, the Evo II Pro comes in at $1795 with the controller, and the Mavic 2 Pro comes in a little bit more expensive at $2,049 with the standard controller. As far as flying experience goes, both drones are extremely capable, but there are some differences. Looks wise, the Evo II Pro to me looks less refined and more like a toy with its kind of less sleek rounded design and its coloration. That being said, the bright color is way more convenient for compliance with line of sight rules that are required here in the US for commercial operators. It's just way easier to see. Both drones have similarly easy setup time when it comes to unfolding the drone, connecting the app, and being ready to fly, but I will note that the DJI drone always seems to have some sort of error or warning message, and so it takes it a little bit longer to get to that ready to fly state than the Autel, which seems to almost be ready instantly. Like as soon as you start the Autel drone, it's 20 seconds and it says ready to go, where it can be at least a minute with DJI. Wind speed wise, on their respective websites, both drones claim a top speed of about 45 miles per hour. However, both give vastly different specs when it comes to wind resistance. The DJI website says that the Mavic 2 Pro can resist, whatever that means, a top wind speed of 23 miles per hour, but the Evo II Pro on Autel's website claims to resist force 8 winds, which I had to Google, and it means up to 43 miles per hour, which is almost double that of the Mavic 2 Pro. But since both drones have a similar top speed of around 45 miles per hour, it seemed kind of weird that the Autel could resist double the wind. So I did some more digging, and it seems that the wind resistant speed is really the speed that if flying conditions are stronger. So if you fly in conditions stronger than the wind resistant speed on DJI Care Refresh, which is DJI's in-house equipment insurance, might not cover you, and some online research confirms that some people who crashed their drone after getting that high wind warning have been denied coverage through their DJI Care Refresh plans. That being said, real-world wind performance is very similar for both drones. The day we tested these drones, the wind was gusting up to 29 miles per hour, and both drones handled it very well from a hovering stability and really an airspeed standpoint. They both were able to cut through it just fine. But where the Evo II Pro did pull ahead was in gimbal stability. The DJI gimbal, especially as you were flying forward into a headwind, was more prone to shaking and it would occasionally buff it down, whereas the Evo II Pro was rock steady and never had any issues. Additionally, the DJI footage tends to lean during high wind, which you can see here. Like as you're flying in high wind over time, it just sort of leans to the right or left depending on the wind, and the Autel does not do that. As far as max range, both drones claim a pretty far range of around 5 miles, which honestly is far further than you can reasonably go and still maintain FAA line of sight requirements that us commercial operators are required to abide by. But within the few thousand feet we tested these drones, which is really further than real estate photographers ever really need to go, there was zero lag or latency issues of any kind. Now on to app layout and usability. Surprisingly, I think Autel gets the win here. Despite me being very familiar with DJI's menus and layouts, I still was more easily able to get the settings and modes input how I wanted them on the Autel than I was on the DJI, and I found the menus to be really modern and easy to navigate. I'm also a big fan of the camera view on the Autel, which fully takes up the phone screen instead of this like cropped view that DJI has. The last thing we need to cover before jumping into the photo and video comparisons is Geo Fencing. DJI has a built-in system that does a pretty good job making sure we as pilots don't fly where we're not supposed to, and 99% of the time that is a really helpful and great feature. That being said, there are times when it is really difficult to turn off this geofencing even if you have the proper legal authority, and so for those pilots who routinely find themselves having to fly in areas that are geofenced and have gone through the channels to get clearance, it may be worthwhile to go with the Evo II, as it doesn't have any of that built-in geofencing that can really mess you up. Just note that when you don't have any kind of geofencing, it is 100% your responsibility to make sure you're flying in an area that is legal for you to fly in. Now on to the fun part, which is photo and video quality. But the not fun part is that both drones produce really similar results using our photo workflow. So similar that it's actually really hard to tell the difference, as you can see here. The Evo II Pro was marginally sharper, but not enough to sway my overall decision on that alone. And as far as video quality goes, I think the Evo II Pro is a bit sharper, as you can see here, but both are great. I will say that the Evo II Pro footage comes in a lot less graded ahead of time. There's a lot more work you have to do to get it there, but I think you do have more flexibility in the editing room. That being said, for real estate video, that's not really important. The type of real estate video that I do is fairly volume based, and so we don't spend a lot of time grading, and for that reason, I actually like the DJI's video footage better. To conclude this video, the thing that I'm really most excited about is it seems DJI finally has a real competitor, and this means that drone tech will continue to be pushed forward and continue to improve at what I would imagine to be an even faster rate than we've seen these last few years. As far as the drones themselves, I think the Evo II Pro and Mavic 2 Pro are both great drones in that more expensive side of the prosumer class of drones, but as a real estate photographer, I still think that the Mavic Air 2 is the go-to drone for its balance of both price and quality, and it's what I'll continue to outfit my team of photographers with. That being said, if Autel comes out with a lower-end drone that could compete with the Mavic Air 2, that certainly could change things. That's all for this video, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.